Hello again, this is Tehsin Aslam of Abacus, Wills and Trusts UK and Middle East. This week I'm going to be addressing some more questions. First scenario is an email that was sent by Luke from Staines, and Luke states that I own 50% of one property and 20% of another property, both with my father. The value that I own is about 350 to 400,000 pounds. I am single and have no children. I currently live with my parents. What would happen to my estate when I die? He also goes on to state that my ultimate aim is that if I were to die before my parents, I would like my share of the estate to go to my parents. How do I avoid paying inheritance tax? Now, because Luke is a single man, his inheritance tax exemption limit is £325,000, which means that when he passes away, anything above £325,000 will be charged at 40% tax, which means that Luke's parents, who he wants to appoint as the beneficiaries, will get the first 325,000 free of inheritance tax, and the balance they will have to pay 40% tax on. So that's one issue. The next issue is that whatever the parents inherit will be added on to their estate, which will make their inheritance tax liability worse. What I would advise Luke to do, instead of making his parents the beneficiary, he should set up a trust and make the trust the beneficiary and appoint the beneficiaries in the trust. So he puts his assets into the trust in his lifetime. First of all, the benefit of that would be that after 7 years, those assets will become inheritance tax free. Secondly, he should write a will, and in that will appoint his parents as the executors and trustees. And also in the future, if Luke were to get married or have children, then he can always make amendments to the beneficiaries. But for the moment, according to his situation, this is what he should do, that he should put it into the trust. After 7 years, the inheritance tax liability will be eliminated, and instead of the assets going directly to the parents, forming part of their estate, he can just appoint the parents as the trustees and beneficiaries of the trust, but the assets will not form part of the parents' estate, and therefore their inheritance tax liability will not be affected. First of all, it would address the inheritance tax liability, and secondly, it would make sure that it goes to the people that he actually wants it to go to. Now, for example, if his parents were to go to a care home, the assets that Luke would give to his parents would also be used up in the settlement of the estate or for care home fees. Or if his parents became bankrupt, the assets would be used up in that. But if he left the assets in a trust, and the parents were the trustees and the beneficiaries of that trust, then whatever were to happen in his parents' lifetime, the assets that are in a trust will not be affected. And the parents need to do the same thing for their share of the estate also, because the same problems would apply when their beneficiaries inherit. So, Luke, I hope that that's answered your question. Stephen from Ilford has written in, and his question is that his father has been diagnosed with cancer. I'm sorry about that, Stephen. And he states that his father is divorced from his mother, and he lives with his father and with Stephen's wife in the flat that the father owns. The value of the flat is about 280,000. And when his father passes away, would he still be allowed to live in the flat while the probate is being done? Because he is going to be one of the beneficiaries. And also, as he understands it, all his estate will freeze until probate is complete. Yes, when somebody passes away, all of their estate freezes. What we mean by freeze is that, for example, if father has any bank accounts or insurance policies or properties, nobody can claim that in their own name until they've received the grant of probate and proven that they are the entitled beneficiaries. So that's what we mean by frozen. Now, in Stephen's situation, his father only has one inheritance tax exemption limit because he's a divorcee. When he passes away, Stephen, no one is going to throw you out of the apartment. As long as the other beneficiary is quite happy with that. I believe in the next part of the email you've stated that you have a sister and you're both beneficiaries of the estate. So as long as she's happy with that and you continue paying the bills and maintenance of the property, then no one will throw you out. And then once you've applied for the letters of administration, because when somebody passes away without a will, then you have to apply for letters of administration. I suggest that you encourage your father to write a will. It'll just make life a little more easier for you. When you're applying for the grant of probate, it'll probably be quicker. And yes, so the answer to your question is that there'll be no inheritance tax to pay as long as that's the only estate, because it's within the inheritance tax exemption limit, and no one will throw you out of the property until probate is complete. But yes, obviously, when probate is completed, and your sister is a beneficiary of the estate as well, so you both need to decide how she will get her share. Your two options are that either you sell the property and you each take your share of the property, or you buy her out and give her her share so that you and your wife can continue living in the property. I hope that's answered your question. I hope this has been beneficial, because a lot of this information, even though inheritance tax is not applicable in most of the countries around the world, all of the other issues are. Please keep your emails flowing. They're really useful, not just when I give you the answer to your particular question, but for everybody else who watches the programs as well. So it's goodbye from me. Thank you very much for watching today's show. And please don't forget to share, like and subscribe. And until we meet, from Tehsin Aslam, Chief Executive of Abacus Wills and Trusts, UK and Middle East, goodbye.